Welcome to Table for 92, element number 78, platinum. It's number 78 because it has exactly 78 protons within its nucleus. Platinum isn't really naturally found in food, so I'm making a ceviche that would have been made by indigenous people. The Spanish, when colonizing the Americas, they brought lots of foods over here that hadn't existed previously. Lemons, limes, oranges, cilantro, red onion, olive oil, carrots. But yeah, the modern Ecuadorian ceviche is of course wonderful, but I'm just gonna, show you what ceviche would have been like for people living on the Pacific coast of what's now Ecuador for those thousands of years before the Spanish arrived. Platinum. It was first discovered in what is now Ecuador and was used in metallurgy in that region well before the Spanish arrived. But that history, it's pretty often overlooked. Near all the elements were discovered, in the ancient world came from North Africa, the Middle East, and like Southeastern Europe. It makes sense though, that's where the earliest civilizations first sprang up. The only outliers are copper and platinum and bismuth. Copper was actually first discovered in the Great Lakes region of North America. Platinum though was first discovered and used by what archaeologists call the Tumaco La Talita culture in modern day Peru and a couple other countries. And yeah, platinum isn't found in foods. I hope that never happens, to platinum like how gold leaf is gone. They just put it on food to make it more expensive. I mean, gold, it has no taste, it just makes your doo-doo sparkle. So hopefully they don't do that with platinum. So I'm making pre-Columbian ceviche. So the people that discovered platinum would have eaten something along the lines of this, like long before the arrival of the Europeans and all the different foods that they brought with them. Ceviche was different before the Spanish came. So people have lived in South America for 13,000 plus years, but that number is like really contentious though. There are some sites that we've dated to like 27,000 years ago. Dating methods can be difficult, but for sure 13,000 plus years. Just how much plus we still don't quite know yet. Archaeology, it's a process. But yeah, the first peoples of the Americas were hunter-gatherers like pretty much everyone else at the time. Domestication of plants and animals happened at different times all over the world, but yeah, it's kind of like the same formula with a couple exceptions. You start intentionally growing wild plants and animals. You selectively breed them to get the qualities you want out of them. You settle down. People start having jobs not directly tied to food production. You find and start using metals out of the earth. Boom, civilization. South America though, everyone's favorite foods now come from South America basically, or, Central America too. Chocolate, I actually don't like chocolate, but I know most of the world does. Tomatoes, potatoes, guinea pigs. Well, that hasn't been a big part of global cuisine yet, but supposedly it's supposed to be pretty good. One of the things that kind of gets overlooked are all the fruit either fully or partially domesticated in South America. Guava, papaya, acai, cacao, cashews, and like tons of others you'll never see in a grocery store. Those were fully or partially domesticated by people in South America. The humble passion fruit though, it's very high in citric acid. Not as high as the limes and lemons that the Spanish would eventually bring to South America, but it has enough citric acid to cook ceviche. If you're going to get ceviche at like an Ecuadorian or Peruvian restaurant, the mainstays are, fresh fish, lime juice, onion, chili peppers, salt, black pepper, and love. Well, the Spanish brought limes, onion, and black pepper to South America. So the pre-European contact ceviche was quite different from what you get at a restaurant today. It's still loving it though, of course. Yeah, and again, this kind of ceviche is the kind that would have been eaten by the very people that discovered platinum around 2,000 years ago in what's now Ecuador. So raw fish is eaten all over the world, sushi in Japan, ceviche in South America, crudo in Italy, poke in Hawaii. You always hear though, like ceviche is cooked in citric acid. That's not really what's going on. The citric acid is really changing the proteins and the connective tissues in the fish and the shrimp, of course, and it firms it up, making it look like it was cooked with fire. Citric acid, it can kill some bacteria and stop the growth of bacteria like E. coli, but it will not do anything to the parasites found in, unfortunately, most fish. So like always be on the lookout for those slimy. Yeah, I get the frozen stuff that's been frozen at like -20 for a week. That kills the parasites, sushi grade fish. I've worked with too much fish, seen too many parasites, especially swordfish. It's awful. So I always go with this stuff. The origin of the word ceviche is a bit of a toss-up though. It's pretty interesting. It could be from the Quechua word ceviche, meaning fresh fish. However, the Spanish brought Moorish slaves they used as cooks on their ships, and they cooked a dish called escabeche. That's like a fish or meat with pickled vegetables. And plus there's an old term in Spanish for bait called cibo, so it's like cibo escabeche. I can see how historians got there, and the vinegar from the pickled vegetables it's kind of like the citric acid, but I think the Quechua ceviche makes more sense, and it just kind of got corrupted by the Spanish, and now it's ceviche. So when the skin gets like lightly wrinkled on these passion fruit, it's ripe. It's the perfect time to juice it. The insides, they look a little bit sinister. Passion fruit, it's one of the only fruits like where the worse it looks on the outside, the better it is is on the inside to a certain extent. Eventually they will just dry up, but yeah, you can hear the juice inside. Huh? Yeah. So the name passion fruit, it came from the Spanish though. Yeah, like, so it was missionaries in South America used the passion fruit as an analogy to Jesus of Nazareth. It was named Flor de las Cinco Llagas, or flower of the 5 wounds that Christ suffered. The flower that this fruit grows on, it has like these 5 spears, and it's actually quite beautiful. So it was used to try and convert the indigenous people, you know, use it as an example. But, you know, passion fruit, right? Passion of Christ. Well, you know, in South America, it was forced conversion. The Spanish, the Portuguese, like if you didn't convert, they'd burn down your villages and kill everybody. So not that passionate. This stuff, man, it is tangy. It stings the nostrils. Platinum. The word itself is just associated with luxury, right? But, you know, how did that come to be? We all know that platinum is an incredibly expensive metal. You know, over time it's been more expensive than gold, but, you know, the prices fluctuate. But yeah, it's very expensive. It's so expensive, people are stealing the platinum and other platinum group metals out of people's catalytic converters. And it's really just a few grams of platinum and other like precious metals in those catalytic converters. So like that's how incredibly expensive that stuff is. So with the internal combustion engine, the way it works is when emissions come out of the engine, it goes through a catalytic converter. There's like this honeycomb-shaped structure made of platinum, rhodium, and other platinum group metals that react with nitrogen dioxides in emissions. The platinum group metals hold on to the destructive nitrogen molecules and it's captured, and the oxygen molecules are released. The platinum group metals are the catalyst of the catalytic converter. But yeah, like there's only a few grams of platinum and other platinum group metals in a catalytic converter. It depends on the car. Some Ferraris have 2 catalytic converters with quite a bit more platinum in that. So those can be worth like thousands of dollars, but most cars are holding like between $100 and $250 worth of platinum. Yeah, there's actually a great movie that's kind of about the catalytic converter, The Nice Guys, with Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. Great movie, takes place in the 70s. It's hilarious. Platinum just makes everything sound more elite though, right? Like Thor's Platinum Outdoor Science Academy sounds super exclusive, doesn't it? I mean, wouldn't you like to be part of Thor's Platinum Outdoor Science Academy? So there is platinum all over the world. The earliest example of platinum being used in decorative use actually comes from ancient Egypt, dating to around 2,700 years ago, where archaeologists found a gold platinum alloy metal box buried with the princess Shenepupet II. So not, you know, to be confused with Shenepupet the First or Third, or maybe there were more, I don't know. But yeah, however, you know, we don't really know how much the Egyptians knew about platinum as its own metal. In nature, platinum is often combined with gold, so it may have just been a coincidence. That's what I think to be true. I mean, the Egyptians, they pioneered a lot of new technologies, but discovering platinum did not seem to happen there first. Gold and platinum have very similar properties, which makes sense because they're table buddies right next to each other. But, you know, the real credit for the discovery of platinum, looking at archaeological evidence, was probably around 2,000 years ago when the first peoples in what we now call Ecuador started using platinum as its own thing, separate from gold or any other metals it may have been bound to. Those people are known to archaeologists, like I said, the Tumaco-La-Talita culture, and this was not crude work they left behind in Ecuador and neighboring countries. They were among the best metallurgists in the world at the time. The Tumaco-La-Talita culture, it lived in, yeah, what is now modern-day Ecuador and parts of Colombia around, it goes between like 2,300 and 1,700 years ago, and this makes complete sense. That particular area, Colombia and Ecuador right in there, is one of the few in the world where you can find pure platinum in nuggets in alluvial sands and riverbeds. Research into the Tumaco-La-Talita culture by archaeologists only really started in the early 1900s, right when archaeology was actually becoming like an actual science. Before that, like, you had treasure hunters out there looting stuff to fill the museums back in Europe. Indiana Jones, great character, bad archaeologist. Yeah, we all get into archaeology because of Indiana Jones, but like, I mean, he destroyed the entire temple and didn't even get the golden idol. I mean, he did beat up Nazis though, so overall a win for humanity. It's been a terrible part of human history, but it's happened everywhere. You know, the conquering and colonization of different peoples, it always coincides with an attempt to destroy the culture of the people you've taken over. And you know why? Like, you try to erase the history from them, but there is a saying in archaeology that's really interesting. Destruction is rarely complete, meaning like if certain artifacts are intentionally destroyed to remove their cultural significance, and like you can see examples of this throughout recent history, the Bamyan Buddhist temples in Afghanistan being blown up by the Taliban, ISIS destroying Nimrud in Syria. Archaeologists, though, like we can still get in there, pick up the broken pieces, put them back together, and still be able to say it's like, yes, we know what was here. They tried to destroy it, but we can put it back together. Unfortunately, that's not really the case with like metal artifacts, especially these ones from South America, because those get melted down. So they're gone forever. Like there's no putting them back together. I mean, we see this problem all over, right? Like the wholesale looting of important cultural artifacts that end up back in museums or Wall Street bankers' deposit boxes. And what happened to the Tumaco La Talita culture is what happened to so many indigenous peoples in the Americas. Before European contact, cultures all over the Americas had extracted huge amounts of like gold, silver, copper, bismuth, platinum, jade. I mean, you know, the list goes on. And, you know, when the Spanish came in, conquered, they seized those precious metals to melt down and send back to Spain to fund their wars and their expanding empire. And, you know, whether it was to profit or to specifically erase the culture of the people they were taking over, I mean, it could have been both happening simultaneously, but, you know, destruction is rarely complete. They stole a lot, they melted down a lot, they couldn't collect them all. We've lost a lot, but archaeologists all over the Americas have uncovered amazing platinum artifacts. Like they are unquestionably stunning pieces of global heritage. I have seen some of these pieces in like traveling exhibits before, but the National Museum of Ecuador has collections that truly show the craftsmanship of the Tumaco La Talita culture. And one day I will get there to see it. So yeah, this brings us to another weird bit of history, like who gets to claim discoveries. You know, since the modern day scientific method was created in Europe in like the 15 to 1700, the idea is like, it's kind of whoever publishes a discovery first in an academic journal gets the recognition for the discovery. But, you know, the whole whoever published it first thing, you know, inherently has a lot of problems, especially when it comes to ancient discoveries. So yeah, Google who discovered platinum, question mark. It will say Antonio de Ulloa in 1735, but then it will say it was in use by pre-Columbian Indians. And so like, I have a beef with this because first of all, in 1735, people didn't even really have an idea of what exactly a chemical element was yet. So like that was really kind of happened later with the discovery of hydrogen, at least I would argue. So, you know, who should get the credit? Well, it's the Tumaco La Talita culture. It's obvious. They were the first to find and extract pure platinum and create cool stuff with it, you know? So I think when you Google it, it really should say something more like this. Pre-Columbian Indians discovered platinum around 2000 BCE, and Antonio de Ulloa, while working in what is now Ecuador, brought the metal to the attention of fellow Europeans around 1700 years later during the Spanish colonization of Latin America. That's how I would put it, you know? Chronological. So platinum was discovered by the Spaniard Antonio de Ulloa while working in Ecuador and is actually named after silver. You know, it's Spanish for little silver, platinos, platinum. It's got a very similar luster, so, you know, that's kind of interesting. But after Europeans realized how precious the stuff was, there was an immediate interest in finding more platinum. It started being used in jewelry in Europe and all over the world, like right after it was brought there. So, but platinum is rare, really rare. You know, part of the reason it's so expensive. Only 190 tons of platinum were produced in 2022 worldwide, mostly from South Africa. That's mostly where it comes from today. So not a lot. And about half of the world's collection of platinum goes into catalytic converters. The other half is used in jewelry and some a little bit in computer hard drives. And it's got a few other applications. But yeah, like half of it goes into catalytic converters. Catalytic converter usually has like 3 to 7 grams of platinum. So yeah, it's kind of funny to me because like there's really not many elements out there with such specific uses. Osmium and iridium are really like specific. But yeah, platinum, despite its crazy history, it's in jewelry, it's in catalytic converters, and like a little bit in computers, and like that's pretty much it. And yeah, as the taping of the show, April 2024 right now, it's less expensive than gold right now. The price fluctuates like crazy because it's so rare. There you go. Thor's Platinum Pre-Columbian Ecuadorian ceviche, topped with some salt and some roasted corn kernels. How much juice you want with your ceviche, it's like totally up to you. Some people like it super juicy, some don't, you know. The juice that's left over though, it's called leche de tigre, like the tiger's milk. You know, it's this spicy mix and supposed to be a good hangover cure. They always serve it in ceviche restaurants I go to just on the side, and it's awesome. Get a little bit of everything there. Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, passion fruit is tart, but all that fish, that cuts right through it. It's fantastic, it really is. Beautiful, tasty, historical. Platinum. Thanks, and see you next time at Thor's Platinum Science Academy.